Welcome back. In today's video, I want to discuss the offseason for the Buffalo Bills. Definitely a very challenging one, especially as a fan. It's gonna be a little nerve-wracking to see what the Bills are gonna do after coming off a pretty bad loss in the playoffs. A lot of questions, especially with the cap and everything. As right now, last time I checked, the cap is at -20, so definitely have to make a lot of cuts, a lot of restructures. And no doubt, again, it's going to be very challenging. Other teams as well. Cincinnati is going to be in that predicament as well with Joe Burrow's contract, giving them an extension this offseason. You have questions about T. Higgins, Joe Mixon, on defensive side. Jesse Bates, definitely, for them, they're going to be going through their tough challenges, deciding who to keep, who to restructure. And no doubt, again, the Bills are going to be in the same predicament. For this one, I'm discussing kind of went over what happened this season, what went wrong, especially the main concerns I have. We're going to be discussing also the pending free agents that they have that are potentially going to walk or stay. After that, I have some free agency picks that the Bills should go after if they are considering that. And after that, we have my mock draft for the Bills, players that I believe they should go after. It's going to kind of contradict a little my off-season picks too, and it's kind of just giving options out there. If not, depending on how the cap is at that point when we get to the off-season to sign free agents, it might change. So most probably, I do think for Brandon Beane, he's really gonna have to home on this off-season. Draft picks the last few years definitely have been lacking, especially in the middle rounds. And we need to do better. It's been 4 years since we've drafted a Pro Bowler. Last one being Allen and Edmonds in 2018. Ever since then, we've not had a single Pro Bowler drafted in 19, 20, 21, 20, and 22, and now we're going to 2023. So let's see if he'll break that streak, or it'll be the fifth straight year with that. So talking about the season, it's a little deceiving. We definitely did better than last year record-wise. We were 13-3 if you're counting playoffs, 14-4 in total, 4-2 in the division. Our only 4 losses came in Week 3 against Miami, Week 8 against the Jets, Week 9 against Minnesota, and then the divisional rounds against Cincinnati. Top concerns, no doubt, offensive line, defensive line, turnovers, coaching. Offensive line speaks for itself. Buffalo had one of the worst graded offensive line in the NFL. And definitely, for an individual standpoint, one of the worst. Saffold was down there. Van Ron, I think it was our guard. He was definitely lower on there. And then for the tackle, you had Spencer Brown, Queensberry, kind of sharing, time. In that either one wasn't that impressive. The only two really were Dawkins and Mitch Morse. Even then, they weren't too impressive at times. Granted, with all that, 3 offensive linemen made the Pro Bowl, 2 of them being alternates, Mitch Morse being the only one who actually earned his spot the first time. I don't see how any of them really deserved it, but they did make it. On a bottom note, too, Brandon Beane also did say they were thinking about putting Christian Benford at safety. So, again, I do have in the draft a safety pick in there. I don't know if they'll address. I do have also a safety in my free agency pickups too to recommend, but no doubt they did say Christian Benford, who was a corner this year. They might move him to safety with the Jordan Poyer situation. Defensive line again. The main thing was really just the Cincinnati game. You did see it in spurts and during the season, but Cincinnati in the divisional round really did kind of show all the flaws. Josh Allen had no time to throw in that, and they definitely need to overhaul at that position. Definitely need to put stock in that. Defensive line again couldn't stop the run, couldn't get to the quarterback. I feel like it's been like that for a very long time. Yeah, we do get pressure on them, but especially we don't get sacks. I feel like it's been such a long time since we had a double-digit sack on the defensive line. Von Miller, no doubt, would have been that if he didn't tear his ACL, but as it stands, of course, he didn't. The leading sack leader for our team is tied with Von Miller and Greg Russo. Russo, I was really expecting him to have a double-digit sack season. He did not. Second on that list was AJ Espinosa. He had 6.5. This is his best year by far. Has it lived up to the second round pick? I don't know if he can consistently give you maybe around that, maybe 6 to 8. I guess it's not too bad for a second round pick, but you definitely expect more. Nonetheless. Third was Shaq Lawson, 3.5 sacks. So we definitely do lack in that department with especially getting the quarterback too. I feel like especially when it comes to playoff time when we face Kansas City or Cincinnati, we can't get to them. We can't get to Mahomes or Burrow, and during the regular season too, it just feels like at times we just can't. We get the pressure, we're almost there, but we can't seal the deal. We can't get the sack, push them 10 yards back or whatever, how many yards it is, or if it's a key third down, you get a sack, you end the drive, and it's very frustrating too. I do also have another defensive end going in our hopefully in my mock draft selecting him. I'll get to that later, but definitely again it's didn't feel like a 13-3 record. Turnovers, Josh Allen, of course, that kind of speaks for itself. He before the playoffs started, he was tied for second, I believe, in turnovers. If you're counting playoffs, he did lead the league in interceptions with 16. Actually, no, sorry. Let me repeat that. He had 17. He had interceptions in Cincinnati. He had 17 interceptions. He had a few fumbles. Definitely concerning. This really speaks to kind of just the new offensive coordinator, Ken Dorsey. I'm not a big fan of his offensive coaching. I think way too many times he keeps worrying about a vertical threat instead of trying to establish the run. And you saw times against, in games like New England, like Cincinnati, in the Miami game too, kind of down the stretch, we do have talented running backs. We are able to run the football, but for some reason we get so obsessed with taking deep shots, trying to end games right away, and it's just not. It's not going to happen every time. Kansas City ran into this problem in 2019 in the Super Bowl. Tampa Bay ran a Tampa defense on them. Tampa 2 shut down Tyreek Hill over the top, and that was their main way of scoring. They always kept taking the big shots. They held Tyreek in check, and they made him take short passes to move shortly, take small steps and move down the field a lot longer. They weren't able to do that, and they got blown out 31-9. It even going into the 2022 season, or 2021 season, my bad, they struggled for the first half of the season. They were still stuck on that because teams took that blueprint that the Bucs did in the Super Bowl, and they went against it. They used it against Kansas City, and it definitely did work. And at one point, people were questioning even if they were going to win their own division. Eventually, they were able to turn around, and not shocking with Andy Reid and his genius for offensive scheming. They were able to kind of re-engineer the offense to make it short passing, add a little bit of run game to it. They are similar to Buffalo to an extent where they also struggle at running the football, but definitely more effective than we are. Definitely better at scheming up plays, and that's why I think we lack, especially with Ken Dorsey. It's a big loss with Brian Daboll leaving to the Giants. Especially speaks for itself. 2020, 2021 were definitely great years offensively, especially in the playoffs in 2021. It just felt like going to the playoffs, how we beat New England that badly, going back and forth against Kansas City. It just felt like that could have been our year. And again, it kind of goes the other side of the ball with Leslie Frazier. I don't think he's really that great of a defensive coordinator. He doesn't seem like he really does well with adjustments. He kind of just sticks with the same old defensive scheme, while other coaches, mind you, vast majority of them are offensive-minded coaches now, are adjusting way better and are picking the defense apart. I was kind of hoping Frazier would have been fired this year. He didn't. We fired our safeties coach because somehow he was the whole problem for the defense. I don't know why McDermott doesn't want to get rid of him. I'd rather take the chance on a different coach, but yeah, we'll see. Hopefully things change not next year, but seeing that we're sick, we'll be 7 years in, I believe. 7 years in with McDermott and Frazier. I doubt it'll probably be the same thing next year, and we'll have the same discussion. And who knows, it might get to a point where it costs McDermott his job. So and I also do put the blame on McDermott too. I don't think he was really accountable at the end of the game, and kind of like the offseason press conference at the end of the year they had. Him and Bean, I don't think they were really accountable for themselves, making excuses, especially with Cincinnati kind of saying, "Oh, we don't want to suck enough, suck as bad to be in a position where you have to draft Jamar Chase." Kind of an excuse. The only reason why they were in that position is because Joe Burrow tore his ACL, so it was kind of a given. The other one was they're fortunate to be on a Joe Burrow rookie deal. Yeah, that's kind of what great teams do. That's kind of what great GMs and coaches do. They take advantage of the opportunity they have with the rookie contract. They surround people they surround their quarterback with weapons. They didn't stop with just Jamar Chase. They had T Higgins was already there, but they got Jamar Chase. They already have a Tyler Boyd. They have a Joe Mixon. They got Hurst at tight end this year. They went out and got offensive linemen. And for the Bills, I feel like they keep kind of holding on to the fact that they traded for Stephon Diggs 2 years ago, and they think that's good enough. No, you have to keep going. You can't just have it's great to have, no doubt, an elite receiver, top 5, no doubt. But you keep getting 4th and 5th round receivers that aren't really doing anything. Gabe Davis, I was really disappointed this year with him. Statistically, it is his career best, but it's kind of a given, seeing that he is the second option, so he's going to do better than what he's done. If he didn't, it's very alarming, and I'd probably say you should probably move on from him. Definitely not, again, no help really outside of that too. McKenzie, very disappointing. I remember last year in 2021 when he had to step in for Cole Beasley at the slot position. He did do well, especially in the Patriots game. He had 10 catches for over 100 yards. He really looked like he could be something. This year, I don't know what it was. Very inconsistent. Too many drops. A couple of times he kept slipping on the field. So definitely not reliable. As you saw at the ends, they eventually had Cole Beasley come back in at the slot, and he did much better than McKenzie. Shakir, I don't know why he didn't get more opportunities, and he showed flashes. Every time he came in, he always made a play. And again, they were just so hell-bent on McKenzie just being the slot receiver. We do have him, again, for one more year this year. I didn't put him on my list because he isn't a pending free agent, but I wouldn't be shocked if he was a player that they cut, depending on who they get at the offseason and the draft. I would probably cut him. I think, I get it's a really cheap deal, but if you're going to tell me you're going to put him at slot receiver again, I would let him go. If you're going to tell me you're going to put him back into his original role where he's kind of a gadget player, then I'd be okay with it. So that's my 4 concerns, especially coming away from this season. I think there's way too many good teams that are starting to catch up to the Bills. You still have Kansas City's always going to be Kansas City. Cincinnati, even though they're going to be this, like I said, they're in a similar spot than we are with the cap, trying to figure out who to re-sign, who to let go. They're still going to be up there, just like everyone else. And I just think the Bills really need to think about a different direction, where they need to go, different mindset. But we'll see. I really do think, like I said, the free agents that I picked out that they should go after in the draft, I really do think it does help. But moving on to free agents, all these are unrestricted free agents. Of course, the 2 that jump out to you the most is the top 2, Jordan Poyer and Tremaine Edmonds. For the color scheme, all the players in yellow are players that I think are going to probably walk, and the green are the ones that I think we're going to re-sign. So again, starting with Jordan Poyer, age 31. I tried to look online to see what the projected contracts are. The market value they have for Poyer is 3 years, $33 million, or of course $11 million per year. I don't think Buffalo's going to be able to afford this. I've kind of heard some people say he's even asking for more than $11 million. It wouldn't shock me. And I just think, again, I think it's just way too much money. I would love to have Poyer back. He's shown that last 2 years, especially getting recognition finally. Last year making All-Pro, this year making the Pro Bowl. And no doubt has been one of the best defensive players we've had the last several years. But again, you're in a tough cap spot. You're in a tough situation at the cap. You have to make tough decisions. I don't want to say you're in a rebuild because rebuild kind of scares a lot of people when you say that. I'm going to say probably just like a mini rebuild. I guess it's kind of a best way to describe it. You're going to have to let go of tough players, and you're going to have to, again, hit on your picks. Baron Bean said we have to hit on our low-budget free agents, whatever that means. And no doubt it's that kind of fits on what I said before about Christian Benford. He could probably come in and take over Poyer's spot. I don't know how good he is. But as of right now, I would let him walk. Again, getting up there in age too, 31. And you're going to notice a lot of these guys who are up in their age. Most of them are 30 plus. Moving next to Tremaine Edmonds. No doubt probably the biggest priority out of all of them. 24 years old. As it jumps at you right there. Next year, going to next year will be his 6th year. And he'll be 24 years old. Definitely no doubt he's going to be sought after in free agency. Again, market value have him. Same thing for Poyer. 4 years, $44 million or $11 million per year. I do think he's going to get more, and I think he's going to ask more. I kind of project he'll be between. I'm going to push it to like 15 to 18 million. I won't be surprised if teams are going to overpay him. One that comes up to mind is Houston, especially with DeMeco Ryans. He's trying to rebuild that defense. They do have a lot of cap. And I think for him, that is a perfect player to throw a bunch of money at to help the defense. I'm not too crazy over him. I still think at times he's not the best at coverage. He misses a good, more tackles than I like. And I just think his teammate Matt Milano. I get they're two different positions. Matt Milano's outside, he's middle. But I still think no doubt Milano is so much better than Edmonds. I really do. I don't think Edmonds has really lived up to his potential. Physically, being 6'5", having a huge wingspan, having the speed, I don't think he's lived up to his potential like his, counterpart in the first round, Josh Allen. So again, I think he'll probably be the top priority for the Bills to re-sign, but I just don't think he's going to be able to afford him. Again, I just think teams are going to throw a bunch of money at him. They have a lot of cap this offseason, and it's not going to work out. Devin Singletary, again, same thing too, a younger player, 25 years old. Market value, they have at 3 years, $16.7 million or $5.5 million a year. This is he's most likely going to walk. You have James Cook and Nyheim Hines. Nyheim Hines, can't say his name. So right there, and it's usually they usually just do like a two back, 1-2 combo. Very rarely do they kind of throw the third running back in there. That was the same thing for Hines. You didn't see, even when he was on offense, he was only on the field for a few plays and barely got the football. He was mostly just special teams. Singletary, again, it's what I keep saying about with the cap situation. You're gonna have to make tough decisions. You're gonna have to let go of people, and I do think Singletary is gonna be the one. Same situation when I said about Edmonds. I just think teams are gonna throw more money at him to go to their team. I don't want to say he's necessarily a top priority. I mean, he's definitely up there, but to say, I don't know if he's definitely not top two. Top two is definitely Poyer and Edmonds. Singletary is probably third, maybe fourth. But again, nothing bad to say about him. He was a really good running back. Sadly, we didn't use him a lot just because of how our offense is. We don't use running backs regardless, which is unfortunate. He was definitely great here for the years he was. I think it was 19, 20, he's been here for 4 years. Again, I definitely appreciate what he's done for the team. Definitely not a horrible running back. Whoever's going to pick him up is going to get a really good running back, especially if they're going to sign him for that price. $5 million a year, I think is really good. But I just don't think it's going to be here. I think another team again will throw money at him. Some people keep saying too, like the Giants, especially with Dable. It wouldn't shock me, but it all depends on what the whole Saquon Barkley ordeal is with that. If they're going to give him a big contract or they're going to let him walk. If they are, you're definitely going to have to get a top running back in the draft or in free agency. I don't think it's going to cut it letting Barkley go and you're replacing Singletary. Because Singletary, even though, again, I do believe he's a good running back, he's not Saquon. He's not going to carry the team like Barkley did. He's not as talented as Barkley, and I think that's going to be a big mistake if the Giants do that, if they even are considering him, or who knows, there'll be another team out there definitely that'll probably go after him. But moving on, Jordan Phillips is my first player that I do think the Bills will re-sign. Again, up there in age 30. Not sure what his market value is. From here down, I don't necessarily know the market value. I'm just going off of the contract they had going into this year. So this year they had a 1-year, $5 million deal. I think it's pretty solid for what Phillips does. Regardless, I think you still need a huge D tackle in the middle. At Oliver, I do think he is good, but he lacks size. You need the huge D tackle in the middle. Definitely hasn't played like the Jordan Phillips he was in 2019 when he had 9.5 sacks, when he really was able to break out and get that big contract in Arizona. But nonetheless, very solid. He has been dinged up through the year and missed a few games. But again, I think for $5 million, it definitely is a solid deal on the defensive line for at least for one more year. We'll see what happens next year. They might, again, be in a better position on the cap and be able to get a better D tackle in free agency or in the draft, depending on where they are. Next is Roger Saffold. Again, for this one, it's easy. Let him go. Age 34, contract basically the same as Phillips. Was graded one of the worst in Pro Football Focus. If I'm correct, he was in the 40s for his grade, and especially watching him on the field, not that good. Definitely was not that good. Didn't help Josh Allen whatsoever. Somehow he made a Pro Bowl this year. I don't know how. A lot of question marks in the Pro Bowl. Again, this is the same Pro Bowl that also had Tyler Huntley in it. I think he was the one that replaced Josh Allen. So it's some question marks on that. Again, easy. Again, Phillips and Saffold's contracts are basically the same. So if I had to choose one, it's easy. Jordan Phillips. Jamison Crowder, age 29. His contract was cheap, 1 year, $2 million. I wouldn't be shocked if they just bring him back again if he took the contract. It was a shame this year because he didn't have an opportunity to really show what he can do. He got hurt really early on in the season. I believe it was the Baltimore game, so that was week 4. And again, even when he did play, he didn't do too much. Didn't really get the ball a lot. So again, he couldn't really show what he can do. And he was supposed to be the slot receiver. Again, got hurt. McKenzie took over and then didn't come back to the team since. I think he would have came back in the AFC Championship game if we would have advanced. Him and Hyde, I think, would have been activated and played. But even then, what would Crowder really do? I don't think he would have been too much of a factor compared to Hyde. Hyde would be obviously the bigger player getting back. But this one could go either way. Even though I do have it in yellow, I could see them coming back in a $2 million, 1 year, $2 million deal. But my thought process is you can just go in the draft and get someone cheaper who is younger and probably overall just a better player. Next is David Queensberry. Again, guard. I don't know why I have guard. My bad. He did play tackle too. He came in for Spencer Brown at times. Again, for this one, age 32, 1 year, $1.75 million deal was his contract. Again, this can go either way. They could, for a very cheap contract, they could bring him back for another year just to have some depth or be the starter. But no doubt, again, I just not too impressed. I mean, he did do a decent job at one that really stuck in mind was the first Patriots game when he had to step in and play right tackle. Even then, he was hurt in that game as well. But he did a pretty solid job. That's one that really stands out. Again, overall, I'm not too impressed with the offensive line regardless. Even our better O-line, offensive linemen like Mitch Morse and Dawkins, there were at times I wasn't that impressed with their play. But, of course, they are the top two. You definitely still need to think about finding a new center for Mitch Morse. He's getting up there in age and is injury prone. I know he's still graded as one of the highest centers in the league, but I do think you need to start thinking about finding a replacement for him soon. The second player I have coming back is Shaq Lawson. His contract this year was 1 year, $1.18 million. And forgot the M in that one. like I said, especially towards down the stretch, towards the end of the season, he definitely did. He did play well. I noticed a lot more on the edge. Very good at run stopping. At the very least, disrupting the run. Or for the quarterback, if he was moving out of the pocket, definitely putting pressure on him. He was the third sack lead. The third and the player for the third. Let me see. Third Bills player in for sack leaders. He had 3.5. If I did look at that correctly, again, he's more so just a run stopper than a pass rusher. It's nice to have a familiar face regardless. He was the only first round pick Rex Ryan had, because in 2015 we didn't have it because of the Sammy Watkins trade. So Shaq Lawson was the only first round pick Rex Ryan had. Kind of shows you how well that was. Rex Ryan isn't here, and basically Shaq Lawson is the only Rex Ryan player left, even before he got released or before he left to get a bigger contract, and now he's back again. Would he take a contract for 1.18? I think he's gonna ask for more than that. If you can get that for that price, for one more year again, no doubt that's a steal. But if he's gonna be asking for maybe like Jordan Phillips, like $5 million or even way more than that, I don't think it's gonna work. Again, you're gonna have to make a lot of tough decisions this year, and it's gonna be Shaq Lawson. I think could go either way, but I have him as bringing it back to really help that defensive line. The other ones, there's way more, but I think there's kind of like the more important ones. AJ Klein. Again, can go either way. He was, a really solid backup. I remember especially 2 years, the last 2 years definitely was great for depth. If Edmonds was out or Milano was out, played really well in 2020. But for that coming into the season, he was cut before the season started, and then eventually later on in the season, he was brought back. I'm not sure what is going to happen with them. There's a lot, especially when you get down to the bottom now. A lot of like toss ups where players might go if they're gonna stay or go. He can be one that stays, but all depends on the price. It might be the same situation as this year where he gets cut and then he comes back for a cheaper deal. Well, not cut. He's gonna be a free agent, but bring him back on a cheaper deal. Cam Lewis, I think you'd let him walk. Greg Van Roten, I think you'd let him walk. Case Keenum, you definitely need a backup quarterback, especially this year. It kind of showed, a lot of starting quarterbacks either, were suspended or hurt. And it definitely showed that you need a solid backup. No doubt the 49ers was a perfect example of that. At one point, they were at their fourth string quarterback in the NFC Championship game with Josh Johnson. So I think Case Keenum would take a cheap deal back to be the backup in Buffalo. A perfect situation. You're on a great team. Thankfully, we didn't get to use them, and hopefully in the years in the future, we never have to see a backup come in for the regular season. So that's my list for unrestricted free agents for this year. Again, there's way more that are free agents that I didn't write down, but I just wanted to write the more important ones, especially the ones I have the contracts up and everything. Those are definitely the most important ones out of all of them. So free agency pickups that I have, again, these are cheap deals that I think you could get. Dante Foreman, no doubt. This year he had a 1 year, $3.4 million contract. He's gonna get more. He'll probably get me a 2 or 3 year deal. Maybe he'll kind of push that to me like $5 million a year. His 2022 stats, he did come in halfway through the year. He definitely picked, of course, was one of the best players on the team. Once McCaffrey left, he was the league's running back. Kind of split carries at first with Chuba Hubbard, but once Hubbard got hurt, he became the main running back. It kind of went back to a two running back style towards the end when Hubbard did come back in the lineup. But for the year, he had 914 yards, 5 touchdowns. Pretty good. He's definitely a bell cow. There's a good amount of games where he has 20 plus carries. And I mean, it shows you like halfway through the year, almost having 1,000 yards rushing it's great. Definitely a great value for a second running back for us. I do believe James Cook will be the starting running back. I know we'll still play that system, a 1-2 combo, but James Cook, I think, is the number one option. Next one is Samaje Perine. It's why I keep saying for the Bengals, they're going to make tough decisions. I don't see them keeping Samaje Perine. They're going to get rid of players that aren't too important to them to try and keep all the money as much as possible to keep that main core together. He had a 1-year deal for $3 million. For the stat, for this year, he had 349 yards, 7 total touchdowns. He had 4 receiving. Again, definitely a great option to be a backup. Is experienced, has played well, especially when Mixon has been hurt. So no doubt, not a horrible running back too. To have a great number two running back to have on your depth chart. Number 3, I don't get why he doesn't get the recognition. Dearness Johnson. Every time this guy comes in when Chubb or Hunt is hurt, he plays unbelievable. Now, granted, it's in a very small sample size. It's in 1 or 2 games a year, but every time I watch him, this guy always makes plays, always breaking tackles. Great, good at catching, good at getting yards after the catch, especially like his balance. Great at contact. I had to go back to 2021 because this was the first year that Chubb and Hunt were really pretty much healthy, so Ernest Johnson didn't have to do too much. But in 2021, in the few games he had 534 yards, 3 touchdowns. Again, he has that capability. I think he's a very sneaky steal in the free agency if you can get him on a cheap deal. For this year, he had a 1-year, $2.6 million contract. I think you can get him for that price or maybe a little bit cheaper. I really recommend Buffalo going after him. I think he can be a great running back in your rotation. Definitely a little bit more physical, but no doubt I think he'll be a steal for anywhere he goes. So next one is middle linebacker. I have Denzel Perryman. Again, if you are probably going to be moving off of Edmonds, regardless if you choose to or he just leaves on his own, I think Perryman could be a solid option. He is up there in age. He's starting to get up there. He's 30. He's 30 right now. Did make a Pro Bowl last year, how you feel about that. So, I mean, it does show that the production is still there. He still can be a decent linebacker still. The main downside, too, is his size. He is 5'11", so you definitely are, from Edmonds to Perryman, just a physical standpoint, definitely, going to the polar opposite. This year, not too crazy. He had 54 tackles, 1 sack, 2 interceptions. Again, for this year, he had a 2-year deal. Before he had a 2-year deal, $6 million. Again, I think a very solid option if you're able to get him. I don't want to say to make him the starter, but I mean, I guess if you were kind of put in a situation where you had to, not the end of the world. Again, in mock drafts, they do have the Bills maybe taking a Simpson from Clemson in the first round, so that could be an option for there. But I just think it's a pretty good deal for them if they're able to get him. Next one is Greedy Williams from Cleveland. I'm pretty sure they're going to let him go. He definitely did not live up to the expectations when he was drafted high. If I'm not mistaken, he was taken in the 2nd round when he was. First contract, he was on a 4-year deal worth $6 million. 2022, I'm presuming he was hurt. I don't follow Cleveland too much, so I don't know what it was. If he was he didn't play a lot or he was hurt. He only had 8 tackles. I kind of just look at this more as just depth. If you're gonna lose, I think Dane Jackson also. I forgot to write that too. I think Dane Jackson might also be a free agent, with Cam Lewis and Dane Jackson potentially leaving. I think this is just a pickup just to have someone in rotation, just have someone as a backup. I think it's pretty decent if you are able to give him a 1 or 2 year deal, like $2 or $3 million if you're able to. Again, if you can get him on a cheap deal, I think it's just more just depth. And this is kind of the funny part when I have safety. I have kind of switching out Edmonds, Terrell Edmonds, getting his brother. This year he was cut during the offseason and was brought back on a 1-year, $2.5 million deal. I don't think they picked up his 5th-year option. I don't believe. They may have. Actually, no. No, they didn't. Sorry. No, because 2022 is the 5th-year option for all the 2018 players, so they declined him. He went to free agency, re-signed them for a $2.5 million deal. Decent stats, had 70 tackles and 2 sacks. Again, that could be an option, a short-term option at safety. I like I stated before, I gotta go back. Sorry, Christian Benford, my bad. Christian Benford, they did say that they wanted to put him at safety. That could be an option. I still think this is I think it's a really great deal if you can get him at free agency for $2.5 million or $3 million still. I think that should be a really solid option, just for them. Decent player, not anything spectacular. Definitely not a Jordan Poyer, but again, you're gonna have to. What Brandon Beane said, you're gonna have to hit on those low budget free agents, and I do think this is a perfect example of a low budget free agent that definitely can excel on that contract if you sign him for, let's say a 1 year. Let's round it up, a 1 year $3 million contract, or a 2 year $6 million contract. I definitely think that is that really speaks of a low budget free agent, especially in Terrell Edmunds. That'd be a great spot for him. Again, you still have Benford, so that's a little bit cheaper, and definitely could take that role. Played decently at corner. Definitely saw some flashes when he had to step in and play, so that safety spot could already be sealed. But these are my picks for free agents. Again, keep emphasizing what he said, the low budget free agents. This is as low budget as it gets for decent quality players for cheap contracts. But moving on, the bigger part is the draft. So we're gonna be in the first round. We have Osiris Torrance from Florida. If you watch a lot of mock drafts, a lot of people do have Torrance going in the first round for us. He is regarded as the number 1 interior offensive lineman in the draft. Size is great, 6'5", 347 pounds. I kind of wrote some, try to look up the pros and cons for each player. So for pro, no doubt, run game. He's physical at the point. An anchor in the pass protection. His size, quickness, especially side to side. Downside is he has a tough time at some speed rushers. He's too high in his sets and also too mechanical, especially in his pass protection. But no doubt, even with some of the negatives, the positives definitely outweigh that. He's definitely a great anchor in the interior offensive line to give Allen more protection and definitely help the running game solidify that. I don't know what side he plays. I think he might play right guard. If I remember correctly, watching some highlights, you could probably you might be able to interchange him, but I think he did play right guard in college. But either way, no doubt, definitely hitting home on that the need for offensive line. Second one is definitely a project, and this is probably something a lot of Bills fans aren't going to be too excited about, especially think about the previous years with Espinosa, Boogie Basham, Greg Russo. Definitely keep drafting these defensive linemen at Oliver in 2019. But again, so Carl Brooks, Bowling Green, defensive end, 6'4", 300. Again, definitely has the size for this one. Also, going back to Torrance, he was overall ranked 89.1, third, and for run blocking 97.1, which was ranked first. But going back to Brooks, for this year he had 50 tackles, 30 of them solo tackles, 10 sacks. For the pros and cons for Brooks, high motor, high production, especially for sacks in his career. Heavy hands, great power. The only the downside is his tightness for his frame, his size, and his run stop is boom or bust. But even that, I think you can really fix the run stopping ability. It might take him a year to get to adjust to the NFL. I know some people kind of question too is the level of talent he's faced. He is coming from the MAC conference, so definitely not great talent compared to other ones like SEC, Big 10, Big 12. and so on. So it might take him a year or so to adjust. And again, that's going to be horrible to hear again going after another project in the defensive line. But I think for his size, having a high motor, watching some highlights, very very fast off the line, I think that is definitely someone we need. Definitely brings the size that we are lacking, and I think that'd be a great pickup if he's available. For the third round, I have another guard going, Andrew Voorhees out of USC. Size, unbelievable too, 6'6", 325. Overall ranking was a decent 81.9 overall. His run was 82.5. His pass was 80.1. So for Voorhees, strength, strong, and pass protection, that's what we need. That's what we'd love to hear. Power point and attack, effective block radius. Downside is his lateral movement and his stature. But again, it's you trying to pick up big bodies on the offensive line, trying to give Allen more time, more protection, helping the run game. I think if you get these two, and I think you could push him to be a starter, and I had no doubt there's gonna be growing pains, of course, to start off with. But again, if you're putting these guys in guard on both the guards, that already helps the offensive line immensely. You have Dawkins, Voorhees, Mitch Morse, Torrance, and then whoever you have on the right side. If you still have Spencer Brown, that's massive upgrade for the position. Fourth round is where the receiver comes in. I know this guy pretty well, being a Sooners fan. I have Marvin Mims Jr. out of Oklahoma, 5'11", 182 pounds. He was only, to give it insight in Oklahoma, he was the only really productive player on offense besides Gray at running back. Dylan Gabriel, I wasn't impressed at quarterback, but no, he was only one of the few bright spots on the team. He ended the season with 54 receptions, 1,083 yards, 6 touchdowns. This might also fit into Ken Dorsey's scheme. For positives, no doubt what I've seen, great vertical threat, great yards after the catch, consistent at catching, very physical for his size. For the cons, lack of size, which I don't care. He's still a pretty decent size. One of the top players I have at receiver is Jordan Addison. He's 1 inch taller. He's 6 foot, but he's in the 170 range. And you look in the NFL. He's compared to Devontae Smith, who is unbelievable. He had over 1,100 yards receiving in the Super Bowl right now. Definitely an amazing second option at receiver. So I don't think that the size really matters for the fourth round. I think you're getting an amazing value in Mims. The other one too is he needs to expand on his route tree. Again, not sure if he'll be a day one starter. Regardless, even if he was an amazing receiver, I doubt McDermott would start him, because why would he? He never does. He'd rather have someone like McKenzie or Cole Beasley start over him. So regardless, even if he was polished, he would be sitting, or he'd be buried at depth. The other one too is adjustment to the pro level. I don't think he's gonna have too much of a hard time. I get it's the Big 12. It's mostly just spread offense, but I do think he's not gonna have as tough as a problem than maybe Carl Brooks. If you're really talking about just level of the talent, you're talking about the Big 12, who's still a Power 5 conference, than the MAC, which is severely lax in that. Next one is Israel. I have a hard time. I can't pronounce his last name. I did have it in my mind. Ankabia. I know. Apologize. He has such a hard last name. I every time, but even when you listen to someone say it, it's not that complicated. But even then, it's like at the same time, it's, if you don't hear it and you're just trying to read it, it's tough. But for Israel, he's from Pittsburgh. I have a running back going in the 5th round. He's 5'11", 225 pounds. This year he had over 1,400 yards receiving, 20 touchdowns. He's most known for this season, if you remember, he went off for 320 yards and 6 touchdowns versus Virginia Tech. That was his big game. If people do remember that, that was kind of halfway through the year. Again, great size, especially weight wise, 225. Watch some highlights of him. Definitely has good speed. Breaks breaks a good amount of tackles. It seems to me when watching the highlights, very shifty at times when he needs to. But for the positives, great size and speed, great age, low miles on him. And this is where it kind of contradicts what I just said, elusiveness. I don't think it's horrible. I think it's solid enough. And working on catching, I don't really care about that. For me, I think the Bills lack a power back. I'm sick. We don't need to keep having receiving backs. Every team needs at least one power back. I don't get this whole fascination of everyone needs to be an amazing catcher at running back. One of them is Jonathan Taylor. The reason why one of the knocks on Jonathan Taylor was he couldn't catch as good. Last year he was the best running back in the NFL. So you don't have to be an amazing catch, receiving back. Derrick Henry shows that too. It definitely helps, but I view him more as a bit more of a power back with his size. We already have Hines and Cook, so you don't need three of the same exact running backs. So next two is more so depth. I know Deion Sanders is probably being proud of this one. Aubrey Miller Jr. out of Jackson State. Linebacker, 6'2", 225. This year, for this season, he had 117 tackles, 5 forced fumbles, 6 pass deflections. And for Aubrey, for positive, he's athletic. Some of them said great leadership. Could be used on special teams. Very instinctive. They label it as chase and tackle. Good at pursuit. Powerful hands, intelligent. He played the Mike linebacker, so no doubt. Very great value for a 6th round pick for a linebacker, no doubt. Not to say like this is someone who's going to replace Tremaine Edmonds. I doubt that. But I think for what he brings, very great upside for a 6th round pick. Decent size, really. 6'2", 225. But that's one of his cons. They do have for size. He doesn't have the best IQ in the run game. Lacks speed and questions if he's a 2-down player. But again, when you're getting this low or this late into the draft, you're trying to find great value. And I think for Aubrey Miller, this is great value for the Bills in the linebacking core. If you're going to lose AJ Klein or potentially losing Tremaine Edmonds, I think this is someone that could really be. And we had Bernard last year for Baylor. People also question his size as well. So no doubt this is someone who is definitely going to add to that. Definitely going to add depth to that position. And finally, for the 7th round, I have Brandon Hill out of Pittsburgh for safety, 5'11", 195 pounds. For his stats, he had 67 tackles, 38 solo tackles, and 2 pass deflections. For Torrance, he's good at the run game, physical at point. Sorry. Reading the wrong one. My bad. Good at run support, good strength and tackle, instinct. Has good instincts, tracks the ball well. What he does lack is at times zone coverage, and again, kind of contradicting what I just said. Not the best, solid tackler, but not anything great. Is not as physical when tackling, so decent at tackling. Not horrible, but again, what I keep saying for Aubrey Miller, getting depth, regardless if you're going to move Betford at safety or get someone in free agency. Again, this just adds more depth at the position. I think again you're getting great value. Also, another person I haven't named too is Damar Hamlin. What his if he's gonna be able to come back next year, if he's even gonna come back at all. So no doubt, Hill definitely brings great talent. Definitely great value at this 7th round pick. So no doubt, again, to try and add to that position. Who knows? Maybe he could be a starter. I doubt it, but no doubt, definitely great value there. So that's pretty much it. That's my thoughts on the Bills offseason. I know it's a pretty lengthy video, but there's a lot to discuss. With trying to figure out what the Bills need to do. Again, it's very stressful at times trying to figure out what the Bills are gonna do, what they need, what's best for them. Definitely a lot of tough decisions, especially on free agency. Well, they're unrestricted free agents. What they're gonna do? Top two, no doubt, is Poyer and Edmonds. But I said that's all I have on the Bills offseason. So let me know your thoughts on what you think the Bills should do. If you agree with what I said, if what you would change maybe for who to keep or who to let go. If there's a player that I didn't mention to sign that they could go in free agency or the draft. If you agree with my picks, if there is someone that I did miss in the mock draft, or you think someone that they should go after, especially in the first round. But again, let me know your thoughts on that. Please subscribe if you did enjoy, and I'll see you in the next one.